In some ways, even though it can be uncomfortable to be the target of that, really it's a validation of everything that we do, that they feel safe to do that in our society.
And the fact that they're going to call 911, they may say X, Y, and Z out on the streets, but when they get the first sign of trouble, 911 is the number.
Absolutely, and that's where we just have to keep things in perspective. If we listen to everything going on, there's a lot of negativity right now towards law enforcement. However, keeping it in perspective, and we get this type of feedback all the time, that there's a large amount of support for the department out in the community.
We've gotten a lot of folks who've come to us, especially at these protests the last month or so, who have said, we're uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable if I were to get pulled over or if I meet a police officer on the street. For those people who are a little sketchy about the encounters, what's the message to them?
Well, I think the first message is come to one of our community events and get to know us. I think we have lots of opportunities for people to do that, and recognize the fact that we're your friends and neighbors. Like, we all live in Anchorage. This is our community too. We want it to be a safe space. But ultimately, if there are people that don't feel comfortable with the police department, like, that's work for us to be done, right?
I can't breathe. Please, the name of the...
We've seen the video. Everyone's seen the video how many times? You know the one cop, and you've got the other three. What is the duty of other police to intervene?
Part of our culture here that starts from day one is our officers are trained to intervene. And part of that process is you have to take care of your fellow officers. And if you're a backup officer in a situation and you see things getting heated or coming unhinged, we teach our officers from a very early age here to step in and take over, de-escalate, calm down the situation. So it's very ingrained in our culture, that duty to intervene.
It's something that we take very seriously, both from sort of an internal cultural perspective, but also a policy perspective.
Okay, now I'll take your side now of it, I'd say, and someone who's not a cop here. It's late at night, you got called, someone's big, strong, we're not sure about the situation. There's a fine line, though, isn't there, as to whether or not you're going to have to get in there and help your fellow officer if things are getting rough. How do you walk that fine line if things are getting out of hand?
Well, I think we trust our people to use good judgment and, recognize the situation for what it is, take the appropriate actions. But we also have a really robust review system inside of APD. Any use of force by an officer automatically gets reviewed by a supervisor. And so we expect that to be able to catch any errors on the part of the officers and then address it, whether that's through additional training or some sort of formal discipline, or up to and including termination if necessary. At the end of last summer, we had some issues at APD, things that don't make me happy to have to bring up, right, where we arrested officers that worked here. We arrested an officer for DUI. We arrested an officer for sexual abuse of a minor. We arrested an officer for assault. And those are all things that were internally generated at APD. Those came to our attention through an internal reporting system. And so our employees will not tolerate misbehavior by other employees.
Give a report card. What's the image of this department right now, would you say?
Good. I think our image is very good. I think that we hold our people accountable. We're responsive to community needs. We have been given additional resources over the last few years, and we've been deploying them appropriately. We're seeing decline in reported criminal activity all across the spectrum.
Would you like to see this department rounded out when it comes to color and background?
Again, it goes back to trust with the community. So, the community wants to see the department be reflective of, all races. And so, yes, I would like to see that. But I think more importantly, I want to have good people serving the community.
We feel the community support literally every day that we are working. And especially as we've been going through the last few weeks where there has been a lot of scrutiny on law enforcement, I feel like, frankly, the community has stepped it up a level and we're feeling it even more.
We've been listening and talking to people all across the community, and I want the public and primarily people of color to understand we hear their concerns, and we want to work with them and our elected officials and our command staff team here to continually get better. And if there's areas in policy or procedure that will help build that trust, we want to move towards that. And we're going to continue to listen and have the conversations.
Thank you for this, but more so thank you for what you do, and thank you for wearing the uniform and being available to us if we do need to call 911. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.